Let's begin with a strange thought. You've been lied to, not maliciously, not with bad intent, but you've been lied to in the deepest way possible. You've been told that your purpose in life is to earn money, climb ladders, manage your time, build a legacy, and become someone. But what if none of that is real? What if the whole game is a trap, a kind of existential illusion? That's exactly what Alan Watts, the philosopher who sounded more like a Zen poet than an academic, tried to warn us about. And once you hear what he had to say, you'll never look at money, time, or even yourself the same way again. Here's the hook. You think you're chasing success, but you're actually running in a circle. You think you're managing time, but time is managing you. You think you're building a self, an ego, an identity, but maybe the self isn't there in the way you think it is. Watts didn't speak in riddles just to confuse us. He wanted to shake us awake, because the moment you really understand what he's saying, you don't just think differently, you exist differently. You stop playing the game everybody else is stuck in, and you start living.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
Let's start with money. Watts said, money is a way of measuring wealth, but it is not wealth itself. It's like confusing the menu with the meal. But we do it all the time. We chase the number in the bank account, not realizing that the number is only a symbol. It's not food, it's not shelter, it's not experience. It's a placeholder. But here's the crazy part. Most people spend their whole lives chasing the placeholder. They work jobs they hate, sacrifice time they can never get back, all to chase numbers on a screen. Why? Because we've been hypnotized. Convinced that if we get enough of these symbols, we'll finally feel safe, happy, fulfilled. But Watts flips the script. He asks, what would you do if money were no object? Not as a fantasy, but as a serious question. Because how you answer that reveals everything. It reveals where your spirit actually wants to go. It reveals what's been buried under layers of fear and practicality. And here's the painful realization: most of us don't even know anymore. We've been trained to want what we're told to want. So Watts challenges us. What happens when you stop chasing money and start following your curiosity? Your bliss? Your play? He's not saying be irresponsible. He's saying be awake. Don't confuse the symbol for the thing. Don't lose your life buying tickets when you never ride the ride. Now let's talk about time. This one's even deeper. Because time isn't just a measurement, it's a prison. Or at least the way we use it is. We live as if there's this timeline we must crawl along, always moving towards some destination: success, retirement, legacy, heaven. We think life is a story with a beginning, middle, and end. But Watts says that's not how the universe works. That's how language works. That's how narratives work. But reality is now. It always has been. The past is a memory. The future is a construction. All that exists, truly exists, is this moment. So why do we obsess over what's next? Because we've been taught to delay living. We're told to sacrifice the present for the future. Study now to get the job. Work now to enjoy retirement. Hustle now so you can relax later. But what if later never comes? What if the future is just another trick of the mind? Watts reminds us, the meaning of life is just to be alive. Not to be alive later. To be alive now. So ask yourself, are you living your life? Or are you rehearsing for it? This obsession with time leads us to the final trap: ego, the self, the I, the character we construct and defend and promote. We spend so much effort managing our image, our brand, our identity. We become terrified of being wrong, or being embarrassed, or being seen as anything other than perfect. But here's what Watts says: the ego is a social fiction. It's not who you are. It's a mask you wear to navigate society. It's the voice in your head narrating your life like a movie. But you are not the voice. You are the awareness underneath. Watts compares the ego to a whirlpool in a river. It looks distinct, but it's just the movement of water. It's not separate from the river, and neither are you. You're not a thing in the universe. You are the universe, experiencing itself for a brief moment. The ego says, I'm separate. I must protect myself. I must become somebody. But the truth is, you already are. You always were. The need to become is the great cosmic joke. You are not a noun. You are a verb, a process, a dance, a happening. So what happens when you see through the illusion of ego? You stop taking yourself so seriously. You stop defending your identity like it's a fortress. You become like water fluid, adaptable, alive. You laugh more. You love more. You let go. Because you realize the whole thing, the striving, the proving, the performing was never necessary. You don't have to become someone. You just have to be. Now, let's bring this all together. Money, time, ego, what do they have in common? They're all tools that became masters, symbols that became tyrants, and we gave them power by forgetting they were invented. Money is supposed to help us exchange value. Time is supposed to help us coordinate actions. The ego is supposed to help us navigate social life. But somewhere along the way, we stopped using the tools and started being used by them. We became slaves to the very things we created. Watts wants us to wake up, not to escape reality, but to re-enter it fully, without the filters, without the stories, without the constant pressure to become something we're not. He tells us to dance with life, not march toward a goal, to play, not perform, to breathe, not grasp. And that's not some abstract spiritual idea. It's deeply practical. Because when you stop chasing illusions, you free up energy. You become more creative, more loving, more present. You start doing things not because you have to, but because they're expressions of who you already are. You love because you are love. You create because it's fun. You work because it's play. That's freedom, not having everything but needing nothing. But here's the challenge. You can't fake this. You can't just hear these words and go back to living the same way. But you have to see it. You have to feel the absurdity of the game you've been trapped in. You have to question everything. Why do I want what I want? Who told me this was success? What if the whole structure of modern life is built on a misunderstanding? And when you ask those questions not just once, but over and over, something amazing happens. You start to wake up, and waking up isn't about escaping the world. It's about seeing it clearly for the first time, seeing the beauty in every moment, the miracle of every breath, the absurd comedy of trying to win life as if it were a race or a test. It's not a race, it's a song. And songs aren't about the final note. They're about the dance of melody and rhythm, and the flow, the presence, the now. So here's the final question for this part. What if you stopped chasing, stopped striving, stopped becoming, and simply allowed yourself to be? Not forever, just for this moment. What would that feel like? What would that change? Let's begin with a radical proposal, one so strange and liberating that it can't just be understood intellectually. It has to be felt. Here it is. You already are what you're seeking. Not someday. Not after you get the job, the money, the partner, the enlightenment. Now. Alan Watts said it clearly, you are the universe experiencing itself. And the more you try to become something, the more you affirm that you are not it. The more you seek, the more you reinforce the illusion of separation. The search itself becomes the very thing that hides the truth from you. So let's slow down. Let's really look at what this means. You've been taught since childhood that you need to become someone, that life is a constant self-improvement project, and that you're a work in progress. But Watts says, what if that's all backwards? What if you're not a thing that needs to be improved, but a process that's already unfolding perfectly? What if your so-called flaws, your messiness, your doubts, aren't bugs in the system but features of the dance? Because life isn't a problem to be solved. It's a play to be watched, a song to be sung, a game to be played. But we forget that. We get serious. We get tense. We try to win. We think there's something out there someplace, some goal, some future version of ourselves that will finally be it. But here's the cosmic joke. You're already it. You've always been it. You just forgot. Because you were too busy looking. It's like trying to bite your own teeth, or trying to see your own eyes without a mirror. You can't do it, because the thing you're looking for is the one doing the looking. You are not a separate being dropped into a hostile universe. You are the universe doing a very convincing impression of a person for a while. And when this body dies, the wave returns to the ocean, and the song fades into silence, but nothing is lost. Because the whole thing was never separate to begin with. Now, I know what you might be thinking, okay, that sounds beautiful, but what do I do with that? And that's the exact moment you miss it. Because the need to do something with it is the ego's last trick. The ego says, okay, great teaching. Now, how do I use it to become better? But the truth isn't something you use. It's something you live. You don't become awake. You are awake right now underneath the noise, underneath the striving, underneath the story of me. So let me ask you the deepest question of all. Who are you when you stop trying to be someone? Not when you're asleep, not when you're dead, but right now if you dropped every label, every role, every story. What's left? Silence? Awareness? The breath? The sensation of being? That's what Watts calls the suchness of things. The unfiltered now. It's not a thing. It's not even a thought. It's the space where thoughts arise. It's the canvas behind the painting. It's the awareness that's always been there before your name, before your memories, before your goals. And here's what's wild: when you rest in that awareness, even for a second, life changes. not because you fixed anything, but because you stopped resisting what is. You stopped fighting the present moment. You stopped trying to control the river and instead became the river. And suddenly, you're not anxious, you're not chasing, you're not afraid, because you're not separate. There's no gap between you and the world. You are the world. This is why Watts said, trying to define yourself is like trying to bite your own teeth. The self you think you are, the little I that wants, fears, plans, is just a wave on the surface. It's not bad. It's not evil. It's just not you. And the moment you stop identifying with that wave, you fall into the ocean. You realize that underneath all your thoughts about who you are simply being. And being doesn't need to be justified. It doesn't need to be improved. It just is. And this brings us to perhaps the most mind-blowing truth of all. There's nothing to attain. No enlightenment. No final destination. No ultimate achievement. Because the idea that you're not already whole is the illusion. The moment you stop searching for it, it's there, like clouds parting to reveal the sun that was always shining. The seeking mind is like a flashlight in daylight, so focused on scanning that it doesn't see the light all around it. So how do we live this? How do we move through the world with this awareness? Watts would say, like music, you don't listen to a song to get to the end. You listen to it for the experience. You dance with it. You let it move through you. In the same way, life isn't about getting somewhere. It's about being here, now, fully, with all the joy, sorrow, mess, and mystery that comes with it. So maybe the question isn't what should I do with my life, but how can I wake up to the life that's already happening? Maybe it's not about finding a purpose, but realizing that being is purpose enough. That the act of living is sacred. That laughter, breath, connection, stillness, these aren't distractions from your path. They are the path. Let's get even more practical. What happens when you live this way? You stop rushing. You stop competing. You stop comparing. You start playing, loving, creating. Not because you're trying to become someone, but because it feels good to express what you already are. You stop being a brand and start being a human. You stop living in the past or the future and start showing up to the only time that ever exists, now. And when you stumble, and you don't spiral into shame. You smile, you laugh, because even the falling is part of the dance. Even the confusion is part of the play. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be present, because presence is the only perfection there is. This is what Watts meant by escaping the trap. Not running away from life, but waking up within it, seeing that money, time, and ego aren't problems, they're just tools we misunderstood. They're games we forgot we were playing. And when you remember, the game becomes fun again. You stop being a stressed-out player and become the playful creator. So here's what I want to leave you with. Not a conclusion, not a final answer, but a doorway. A question so powerful, so simple, that it can shake you out of your trance if you really let it in. What if you already are what you've been looking for? What if there's nothing missing? What if the very thing you've been chasing, peace, freedom, joy, is right here, in this breath, in this moment, waiting for you to notice? What if there was never a trap? What if waking up is simply remembering that you were free all along? That's Alan Watts' gift to us. Not a map, but a mirror. Not a destination, but a return. A return to the effortless, joyful, mysterious being that you already are. And the best part, you don't need to change. You just need to stop pretending you're not the universe in disguise.